Hello YouTube. Today I'll be showing you an Airuts Slayer guide at Kuradal's dungeon. So with the nerf of cannoning Airuts, I actually decided to test this again. So the requirements are, you need 92 Slayer, and Kuradal's dungeon is currently the best alternative to cannoning Airuts. You basically can get there from a couple of ways, either the Ferocious Ring teleport, the Slayer Cape teleport, or the Airut Mask teleport, all of which of these options just pick the one that says Kuradal's dungeon, or Kuradal. So yeah, as soon as you enter the dungeon, you want to take the first shortcut, then go north. Now this first shortcut does require 90 agility however, otherwise you can go around west, then go north, which is a really long walk. Alright, so I'm just going to get into the mechanics of Airuts. The Airuts are very strong, accurate, and defensive. They use melee and range attacks, and they have a special attack that basically pumps their chest. And then after they pump their chest, they rapidly attack you with high accurate damage. So yeah, it can be really dangerous if a lot of them pile you at once. However, if done properly, this can be avoided. So here's my equipment setup. Melee's the easiest and best style to use here. It's easier to survive than mage and range. Now the AoE cluster damage is really powerful here. So the weapon I use is Noxious Scythe. You can use Dragon Rider Lance as your alternative. I would not suggest you use any weapon lower than this. The perks I have are Aftershock 3 and Precise 5. Then I have the full Slayer helmet, but I don't have the Corrupted Gem to make the Corrupted Slayer helmet. Make sure you fuse the Ferocious Rings to your Slayer helmet, so that way you'll get 4% more damage. Then I have the Torva Plate Body, and the perks I have are Enhanced Devoted 3 and Crackling 3. Now the Enhanced Devoted perk is really helpful here, because it really protects a lot of damage from you. You can use Torva or Bando's Plate Legs. I personally use Bando's Plate Legs, because you don't really need much more defense after this, and it won't really make much of a difference. The perks I have are Genocidal, and Biting 2 with Mobile perk. Then I use Bando's Gloves, and although you can use the Death Touch Bracelet for slightly more DPS from the reflection, but it's not really worth the cost in my opinion. Then I have Bando's Boots, although alternatively you can use Silverhawk Boots for the Agility XP. So the ring I have is Leviathan Ring. This is really going to provide a good safety net for you, because it helps you reduce the damage in case you're piled. Like, it's really the best defensive ring you can get. Otherwise, if you don't have this ring, then just use Luck of the Dwarves or Surgeon's Ring. Those will do just fine. Now the Ferocious Ring does not actually stack with a fused Ferocious Ring to the Slayer helmet. And then I have the Reaper Necklace, and that gives you 3% more accuracy, which actually helps a lot. Otherwise, if you're struggling to survive, then just use Amulet of Souls. Then I have Scrimshaw of Vampirism, and I highly suggest you have that, because that's your key to survival. No other healing source is better, since you're using Deflect Prayers instead of Soul Split here. I use a superior version because it's more durable and it actually heals more, because yeah, I do a lot of player owned ports anyways. Then I have the Brawler Aura, and that provides you more melee accuracy. Otherwise you can use Berserker Aura or Knockout Aura for extra DPS from their accuracy. If not otherwise, then you can just use Penance or Vampirism Aura. And then finally I have the Elf City Quiver, and that is just for prayer bonus. So for my inventory setup, I have an Aggression Potion. And this really helps make them aggressive, so they stack more, and that way I can get optimal AoE damage. Now be careful with this because it's extremely dangerous if it's not done properly. So then I have Holy Overloads, then Replenishment Potions, which also help restore prayer and adrenaline at the same time. And then I also bring a few prayer potions. As well, I would suggest you bring 1 or 2 pieces of emergency food. I know Airuts do drop a lot of sharks, but just in case you struggle early on, you can eat those 1 or 2 pieces of rocktails. And another important thing I bring here is a dual Drygores as a switch. So basically, I'll explain later how it works. I didn't have the main hand Drygore, so even cheap weapons like tier 85 God Wars Dungeon 2 blades are just fine. You just need decent accuracy. Just ideally make sure that the main hand has Aftershock perk. Any rank doesn't matter, so if you're a little poor, then just use rank 1. Now some people may have Aftershock on all of their high level weapons, so yeah, this is like pocket change to them. Now the reason I put it on my main hand is because this keeps the Aftershock perk from your scythe active. Every time you switch a weapon, it resets Aftershock perk percentage to 0% if another weapon does not actually have the Aftershock perk. And since most people tend to switch the main hand weapon first, I would put that on my main hand. But either way, just make sure when you're switching weapons, first equip whichever weapon has the Aftershock perk. And then on my other offhand, I would put Precise perk on it. So the pouch I have is a Blood Nihil pouch, and that adds 5% more melee accuracy. It costs 80k, but the accuracy is well worth it. Then I have the Spring Cleaner and Alk runes, and they drop a lot of rune plate bodies as well as rune plate legs pretty commonly. You just drag and drop to your money pouch to high Alk. And then I have Magic Notepaper, and that is used for the Airut bones. Ring of Vigor, Enhanced Excalibur, and Gem Bag are also optional, cause yeah, they drop gems once in a while. The Bone Crusher upgrade really helps here, and it costs you a total of 25k shimes from the Arc. It basically automatically picks up the bones for you, and if you have a full inventory, the bones picked up from this Bone Crusher upgrade, as people call it Bone Picker, will be dropped in front of you. And then I have Charming Imp, and that is for collecting charms of course, both of which are my tool belt, and it can be added to your tool belt for 500 Slayer points each. The prayers I have is Turmoil, or you can use the new tier 99 prayer, that also works here too, but I don't have the money to spend for that. Now Deflect Range would be your main deflection prayer. This is because range Airuts are actually more spread out, and the melee Airuts die a lot faster because your AoE is going to hit them pretty often. So yeah, the range Airuts are pretty much more dangerous. Now you can switch to Deflect Melee if you get piled by the melee Airuts. It's ideal that you flick Soul Split on AoE, but it's not really worth the effort, unless you're struggling to survive. So yeah, I'm just gonna get into my action bar. You want to have Cleave on your first slot, and the rest of the basic abilities, it doesn't really matter, just use a good decent Revolution bar. Now you want to put Tuska's Wrath on the side, in case you need a quick 1 versus 1 DPS, or else you can just use that as an instant critical hit. Because you know the Meteor Strike gives you 10% more adrenaline on critical hits? So then what you want for thresholds are Hurricane and Quake. Then you want to switch to a dual wield melee to use Flurry. And what it does is it stuns Airuts after they pump their chest. And after they're stunned, you know what's cool? You can deal double the damage for a few seconds after they're stunned. So yeah, it can really save you from a lot of trouble, as well as add the kill speed. And yeah, for thresholds, nothing else is really worth using. However, you should have Devotion ready, just in case you're struggling to survive. The Meteor Strike can be used as an ultimate ability. You don't want to use Berserk here, since there's no spare adrenaline to use them anyways. And yeah, it can be really dangerous due to your lower defense from Berserk. So yeah, here's a strategy. I guarantee you, this is not going to be easy for people who are new. So if you've cannoned Airuts before, this should be a little easier to survive. A lot of new people tend to panic eat as soon as they start reaching lower HP, instead of actually DPSing their way back to high HP. So anyways, you want to start at the entrance of the Airuts, and don't go in the middle yet until you've set up, until you have a lot of adrenaline. Cause yeah, the middle is really dangerous. A lot of range Airuts are spread out, so the AoE is going to be lacking. And because the AoE is a little lacking for you, you'll heal less from the Scrimshaw of Vampirism. So yeah, while you're staying at the entrance to attack the Airuts, you want to attack the first 4 Airuts for beginners. 3 of them will use range, but your scythe can reach all of them. Primarily, you want to focus on the range Airut as your main target. Now this is very important, because range Airuts are more dangerous. The melee Airuts will always cluster together and follow you around, but the range Airuts will not actually. Now only go across the middle if and only if you're confident. The middle area can spawn melee Airuts, so this is a way to stack them if you can do that. And anytime you find a cluster of Airuts, use your AoE abilities as best as possible. If a range Airut is buffed, like pumping their chest, then this is your best chance to switch to dual wield and use Flurry, especially when there's a cluster following you around. And don't forget, when switching the weapon, click the one that first has Aftershock perk on it, or else it'll reset Aftershock to 0%. So yeah, still use Flurry as often as possible, because it's really fun seeing them get stunned. And yeah, Flurry's a really good safety net, as well as adding DPS as a backup when all your AoE abilities are on cooldown. So overall, it does take a lot of practice to learn, but you'll get used to it. It actually took me a few tries when I first did this method. So yeah, here are the drops. I made 2.1 mil from this task, so you can expect 5 mil profit per hour. This is factoring in the cost of magic notepaper, springs, scrimshaw vampirism, because those are the main cost factors. The price checker forgot to include the runite and coal from this task from the spring cleaner, but I know how much there are anyways, so I factored that in this calculation. Now the profit mostly comes from Airut bones. You won't be able to pick each and every single bone up, but at least you'll get enough of it. Now since early 2016, magic notepaper works by clicking the magic notepaper first, then having to use it on the Airut bone. So yeah, it isn't as harsh as it is before, and of course, the Bone Crusher upgrade makes it a lot easier as well. Since yeah, when your inventory is full, the bones are dropped underneath you. But still, it's really click intensive overall to loot and note every piece of Airut bone. They also drop a lot of noted skilling resources, so the profit can be pretty consistent as well. Occasionally, you'll get a Serenic scale or Razorback gauntlets. And last but not least, they're amazing for Crimson Charms. Now, I didn't record the Crimson Charms, but on average, you can expect 250 to 300 Crimson Charms per hour. So overall, in 25 minutes, I killed 204 Airuts. This equates to 550 kills per hour. At this given rate, you get a whopping 1.1 mil melee combat XP per hour. You also get 440k Slayer XP per hour. So yeah, for combat XP, this is a really amazing task. But for Slayer XP, this is above average as the new Slayer creatures have better Slayer XP. And yeah, more people are after Slayer XP these days, especially given that it's going to be 120 Slayer. So finally, Morven does assign them pretty often. So yeah, thanks for watching and I hope it helps. If I missed anything, feel free to ask.